there are customers out there right now, Ilana, who are so happy to see the dealers squirm as almost a retribution or a payback of like, yeah, you should really take an inward look.
The automotive industry has secrets, but we're here to uncover them. Welcome to Dealer Confidential, the podcast that dives deep with dealers to expose the controversies, the chaos, and the untold truths behind the business. No scripts, no filters, just raw, unredacted conversations. Ready to spill the tea? Let's go.
Welcome to another episode of Dealer Confidential. This is our new podcast where we interview experts in the industry and we go through some anonymous hot takes that we get about anything that we could do to make this industry better. Awesome guest today, one of the best hosts in the industry, Michael Cirillo. Michael. Last time I saw him at NADA, someone literally stopped and basically asked for your autograph. So it's not like, I'm not trying to hype you up, dude. Like this, it's true. Best host.
Well, I'm flattered. I'm blushing a little. I'm sweating under the brim a little bit, but thank you. That's very kind. I'm excited to be here. It's always good to connect with you, buddy.
Yeah,
How are
it's
you?
always good. I'm good. I'm excited to have you. So obviously look Michael up if you're not familiar with him. Just quickly, CEO of FlexDealers, Chief of Staff at ASOTU, host of Dealer Playbook Podcast. Honestly, you started podcasts way before they were cool, so kudos to you. And he's at ASOTUCon right now. So A, thank you for taking time out. B, awesome background. And C, if the audio is a little wonky, we forgive you because you're at a hotel and you're at a conference and we just want to hear.
There's people going around, they're setting stuff up, they're all the last minute stuff. So thank you.
Yeah, I'm excited to hear about it too because I have massive fun right now. And maybe we'll talk a little bit at the end if we have time. But here's the hot take today. We got a hot take from a dealer that wanted to understand more about how they can prepare their dealership for impact of tariffs. What should they be doing? What should they not be doing? How should they be talking to their staff? This obviously came in at the end of March, so it's a bit outdated, but that's okay because today we'll talk about, first of all, there's still things that are relevant to talk about in terms of how tariffs would potentially impact dealers, but also traditionally and historically, I think the automotive industry has such a direct impact from politics, whether that's, labor laws or regulations when it comes to, all the different political fluctuations that we see.
Right.
I would love to know, what's your stance on this? What do you think? And then so fresh. How are dealers prepping for this? And should they prep for another surprise or not?
Yes. Okay. So, here's the thing, right? I think that there's two sides to the fence here. People are either happy with what the American administration is doing or they're super against it. And controversial opinion of the day. The ASOTU team knows I'm allowed at least one. I'm going to use it on this, and it'll probably carry on through the rest of this episode. Here's the thing we have to think about. First is, why are we actually upset? Are we actually upset because we wish our own country's administrations would be more pro-country and doing what's right? We tend to be, and I'm sorry if that's a lot, but we tend to be against anything we know we don't have. That's my controversial take. And it's dang, is Trump kind of a sometimes? Yeah. Does he say super things sometimes? Yes. But at the end of the day, nobody can argue that he is trying to do what he believes and what his cabinet and everybody believes is right for the country. And the track record over the last 100 days kind of speaks for itself. You've got trillions of dollars of investment. You have automakers who were going to manufacture vehicles in other countries now doubling down and bringing those investment dollars back into the country. And so, being a Canadian.
We also have manufacturers like Ford that responded really well and basically gave employee pricing to every single percent, meaning there was other perks as well on the consumer side that I think was incredible.
And I think, I guess where the rubber meets the road, that's kind of the level I would say most of us are on. We're kind of ground floor in the grand scheme of how big this industry is. We would be foolish to believe that the most powerful decision makers in an industry and in governments and in countries are not talking constantly about these things. I would not be surprised if Trump's phone is not blowing up constantly with CEOs from the automakers, Ford, and, all of them reaching out and being like, okay, hold on, like, we got to talk about this. There is a dialogue that's happening. It's not, I don't believe, being a media guy, what the media professes. They have to get ratings because ratings bring in ad dollars, and ad dollars allow them to keep reporting the news. So when you look at the track record and how many billions and trillions of dollars, now I'm starting to sound like them, billions and trillions of dollars. Now, having said that, is there an impact? It's like, yes, there is an impact, but do things ever end up where we think they will? No, never. I mean, look, it's a matter of just a few weeks with the Chinese, trade war and all of these sorts of things. People panic and they go to the news and they're like, my business, I can't afford to pay for my stuff. And then all of a sudden it's like, trade deal, never mind, we're going to pause those. It's like, so for me, it's like
trade deal, stock markets back up. And then also, just we also looked at I had our data team look at car sites yesterday, and I'm like, okay, is what's happening? Traffic spiked by 15% in one day. Incredible.
It shows a couple of things. First, are things volatile? Yes. There are those people that are going to be on the side of the argument that say, well, he didn't have to do any of this anyway. Like, why did he cause such a stir? Well, he caused such a stir because he saw how much money was leaving the country and how bad the deals from his perspective are. At the end of the day, like, love the guy or hate the guy, he's probably better at working a deal than I am. He probably understands a little bit more of the globalist view of those sorts of things. And having said that, so are other world leaders. Are you telling me Netanyahu and new Prime Minister of Canada, Mark Carney, and the French president and the Prime Minister of Britain, they all panicked in front of the media? Well, Netanyahu didn't. He was the first one to come over. He was like, screw this. That's
not fair.
He's just going to come over.
Trump talked to me.
Yeah, exactly. He was the first one to come over and be like, okay, let's just talk about it because that's what men do. The others panicked in front of the media. And then, look at the Prime Minister of Britain 6 weeks ago. Oh, and we have to stand up to try. And next thing you know, they're the first one, second ones through the pipe to sign a deal and be like, I have to applaud how magnificent the American negotiating. So what's my point? I'm not here to poke jabs and throw punches, and I'm not like some pro, we're doing everything right. No. But if you're on the side of the fence that says, well, none of this had to happen anyways, it kind of did, because without pressure, humans just don't take action, right? We really like our comfort zones.
If you look at the past 100 days, it is a lot of the strategy. Apply pressure, deal with the consequences, and figure out how you're going to get what you want. I'm sensing that.
This is the auto industry. If we can't sniff a strategy from 10 miles away, then we need to go work in some other business. This is a flawlessly executed strategy, from the talking points to sometimes the blabbering on the news, to sometimes saying the stupid thing on, wherever, or that it's all part of stirring people up to get action to happen. And I can't really knock the guy for that. That's his mode of operation. I have a different mode of operation, but it is what it is. Now, there is the other side of this, which is, well, wait a minute. If historically things never end up where we think they will, then this is really a call to action to all of us who are paying attention, that we need to have a better anticipatory strategy. If that happens, how will we respond? But if that happens, how will we respond? Instead of reacting. We've just watched the whole world react. Boy, oh boy, what would happen if we had a response plan, not a reaction plan? You know what I mean?
And I'm so happy that you brought that up. I'm happy. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but I'm happy you brought that up, because that was going to be my next sort of segue. Yes, it's a politically influenced industry. Yes, it depends what party's in power. Yes, it depends what safety regulations, labor laws, etc. Right. But almost doesn't matter, as long as you know how to lead the business and you know how to have a response team and you know how to properly engage so that you can make the best out of whatever regulation is upon you. But I agree. And I think that, again, this Ford dealer that I went to that had such a different perspective on tariffs than some of the other clients I was speaking to. Yeah. Super positive, super excited, talked about how he spoke to his staff and how to give it an opportunity. It was awesome.
Yeah. You have to think about this too. Look at it from the customer's perspective. tariffs are not going to change the need for a vehicle. So in that regard, it's like, hey, to your point, Ilana, it's like, figure out your response plan and how you're going to best serve the market. It is important to understand, though, second controversial opinion.
Yes, we get 2. I love it.
Oh, we might get more now that I'm ripping here. So there are guys, and I will die on the hill of being pro dealer. I am pro dealer. Like, I bleed this industry. I love it. I understand how critical local business is in the grand scheme of the economy and what moves it. But we would be foolish to not recognize that there are a bunch of customers out there who are so negative in their vehicles because they were so taken advantage of during the pandemic that they're happy to see you guys burn. You know what I mean? Like, that's, hey, here's your payback. Some of them are out there. And it's important to understand that because, well, guess what? And nobody's blaming you. And I'm not pointing fingers, by the way. You made a great profit during that 3 or 4 year period, and it was unprecedented. Mazel tov. But during that time, I was also one of the few voices that was like, we should really consider what's going to happen a few years down the road when people are so negative. And so there are customers out there right now, Ilana, who are so happy to see the dealers squirm as almost a retribution or a payback of like, yeah, you should really take an inward look. But it's regardless, it's all about a response plan. They're doing sound checks. So
love it. But yeah, no, it's also just a good reminder for dealers that customer service, everyone's going to need a car. Customer service, number one. Doesn't matter what's happening. Figure out how to bring your customer first. Like, it's true.
19, I'll never forget this. It almost played out in such a prophetic way, which sounds super douchey, but I was one of the keynote speakers at Canada's Used Car Week. And I used the analogy in my keynote about these books I used to read as a kid. They were like choose your own adventure books. So you would basically read it was mostly sci-fi, some sort of hero story, but you would read the book as a first person. And periodically when faced with a decision, it would be like, if you want to slay the dragon, turn to page 64. If you want to... You remember those? It was like choose your own adventure.
Yeah.
Yeah, like Bear Grylls now does this on Netflix. I see Netflix has kind of gamified his show where it's like, if you want me to jump off this cliff to my ultimate demise, hit the forward arrow. If you want me to drink my own piss, it's like I used to read those books and I said, I learned in those stories that I was not a great decision maker because I usually would follow the decision that puffed up my ego and ultimately would always get eaten by the monster on page 63. And I use that analogy to suggest that you don't have to always get eaten by the monster on page 63. In fact, it is a very avoidable thing to do as long as you are anticipating, hey, what's the government doing? What's the legislative assembly doing? What are the decisions they're making? And should they make that decision, what will my response be? You can be months and months and months ahead of these things. Why I say it was kind of prophetic, none of us knew, but I'm talking about how no matter what happens, your business can thrive, you can make good decisions, et cetera, et cetera. And like 9 months later, a pandemic hit and shut everybody down. And it's like,
and you probably had a response plan.
Have a response plan to the most catastrophic thing that can happen. And when that thing happens, you won't be surprised and you won't panic. You will flawlessly execute. And look, we did see some dealers during the pandemic, and we did see some we are seeing dealers now, like you said. Ford dealers are coming out and saying, hey, like, let's embrace this thing with a warm hug, because if it happens, I'm going to know what to do, and I'm going to know my message to the market, and I'm going to know how to handle that. So,
well, we're getting kicked off anyway, but this was awesome. I'm so happy you came on. And when I say that I need guests who are raw and unfiltered, you set a new standard. So thank you, Michael, for joining. Enjoy the conference. And for those who enjoyed this episode, Dealer Confidential, you can find us on your streaming sites. Thanks, Michael, for joining.
Thank you. It's great to see you.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Dealer Confidential. More secrets, more controversy, and more truth coming soon. Stay sharp, subscribe, and we'll see you next time.